This is it. This is the last video I'm ever going to make about electric motorcycles. I'm not kidding, unless there's some insane news that like Yamaha's only ever going to make electric bikes from now on. I am tired of people pretending like they're the future. I'm tired of giving these companies the benefit of the doubt, and then they make vaporware and they never come out, and then these stupid futuristic concept models, and they have these crazy sales goals. And I am tired of all the news articles with the headlines that say, this could be the tech that saves electric bikes, because spoiler alert, it's not. Unless an alien life force comes down and brings space-age technology that defies our current understanding of physics, there's not much that can be done to make electric motorcycles make sense for a vast majority of motorcycle riders. Cost, range, depreciation, charging times, weight, those are just a few of the plentiful obstacles electric motorcycles need to contend with. So enough dancing around, let's just dive in. One of the biggest factors that affect all motorcycle sales is cost. Make a good bike cheap and you'll sell a ton. Make a bike expensive and it better be powerful or exotic or full of tech. No matter how you slice it, electric motorcycles are just simply a bad value proposition. They're expensive, significantly more expensive than their internal combustion engine counterparts that offer similar performance. If on the off chance you were interested in an electric motorcycle, you're pretty much going to be limited to something from Zero or Livewire. Energica has gone under as far as I know, and Kawasaki's Ninja E1 is probably the worst of the worst electric bikes out there, so it's not even worth discussing. Last I checked, they can only go like 56 miles an hour. You might as well get a Grom at that point. So say you wanted to buy a Zero, if you could even find a dealership near you still selling them. They've got the Zero SRS, a sort of sport touring type of electric bike. It makes about 110 ponies with 140 claimed foot-pounds of torque with a real top speed of 124 miles an hour. I'll tell you, those torque figures are always a little inflated, usually feels like about half as much. I would say it feels about 70 foot-pounds. Sure, that's not bad, I guess, but it costs just shy of $21,000. Now, for nearly $10,000 less, you could buy a Yamaha R9 with a proper 3-cylinder engine, 117 horsepower, 69 foot-pounds of torque, a real gearbox, a real exhaust character, and everything else that adds up to a motorcycle feeling like an actual motorcycle. And the MSRP is $12,500. The math for electric motorcycles just doesn't add up. Motorcycles are supposed to be accessible, fun, and have performance. They're supposed to give you way more fun per dollar compared to a car. But electric motorcycles cost way more and offer way less. With how cost-conscious consumers are these days, this is not a recipe for success in the next 10, 20, maybe even 25 years. Batteries are heavy, and unlike cars where the weight might not make itself noticeable, on a motorcycle you feel every single pound. Most electric bikes are tipping the scales well over 500 pounds, and some are even creeping into touring bike territory without offering any touring bike talent. A Goldwing is packed to the gills with a massive 6-cylinder engine, comfortable seats, luggage, infotainment, every creature comfort under the sun. It's meant to be a rolling sofa. A heavy-ass electric bike is just a heavy motorcycle with none of the benefits. Ask any Harley brother and they'll tell you, riding a motorcycle is all about freedom, baby. You want to hit the open road, go where you want, when you want, and answer to no one. And not having to worry about whether your bike is going to run out of steam in the middle of nowhere. On Zero's bigger bikes, they claim up to 180 miles of range in the city, but that is under the most ideal of conditions. The minute you start hopping on the highway and doing a steady 75 miles per hour, your range is going to start to plummet. That 180 miles of range turns into 80 or 90, depending on how judicious you are with the throttle. Bikes from Livewire are even worse, struggling to get 100 miles of range with mixed riding. Remember how I said Kawasaki's fully electric Ninja might be the worst of the bunch? Well, it offers just 41 miles of range in road mode if you don't use e-boost. That's not just bad, it's borderline unusable. And it brings us to one of the most seemingly insurmountable obstacles for electric bikes. For more range, you need bigger batteries. Bigger batteries means more weight. So either have an insanely heavy bike that isn't any fun to ride, or a very light bike that can't go anywhere. It's a total catch-22. And when you quickly run out of juice, charging it is a whole different nightmare. Refilling a gas tank takes like 90 seconds. Charging an electric motorcycle on a level 2 charger still takes nearly 3 hours. On a regular wall plug, it could be overnight. And yeah, sure, maybe in the next 5 or 10 years there's some battery breakthrough and we get way more juice out of way less weight, but I don't know, until that appears, we gotta work with what we got. Gas-powered bikes tend to hold their value decently well. I mean, people are out here selling 10-year-old R6s for like $15,000. Not to say buying a motorcycle will ever be an investment that will pay financial dividends, but thanks to proven platforms, reliable brands, and die-hard enthusiasts, most internal combustion engine motorcycles don't see insanely disproportionate depreciation. Unless you're talking about a Janus. Sorry, had to get it in there. Electric vehicles, on the other hand, they lose their value as quickly as a used iPhone. The tech changes really quickly, and that every year a new battery comes out with more range, charging times become slightly shorter, and the old model becomes just as worthless. Nobody wants a 5-year-old electric bike with a half-dead battery and no upgrade path. We've already seen this with Teslas or other electric cars. I mean, if you want to have some fun, go and see what the prices for used Porsche Taycans are versus what they sold for back in the day. I think it's like 70% depreciation. Nobody wants those things. But with the electric motorcycle segment being so much smaller and so much more niche, the depreciation is going to be even more significant. So if you're going to buy one, be prepared to just have that cost be totally sunk and gone. One of the selling points of an EV is reduced maintenance. No oil changes, no valve checks, no blinker fluid. Yeah, I guess that's true, I suppose, but if something were to go wrong on your electric bike, you'd be up shit creek without a paddle. Internal combustion engines have had 100 years of prevalence. You've got a million mechanics, aftermarket supports, repair manuals, proven processes, and infinite DIY guides. With electric vehicles, they're locked down with proprietary software, encrypted CPUs, and manufacturer-specific diagnostic tools. Owning a bricked electric bike sounds more like a Kafkaesque nightmare than owning a 30-year-old Ducati that's never had its Desmo valve service done. If your Zero or Livewire throws an error code, that's likely not something you can fix in your garage with some hand tools and help from the owner's forum. You'll be at the mercy of a dealer if the one you bought it from is still even in business. This is the exact opposition of what motorcyclists want. It's called right to repair. It's a big deal, especially here on the internet. You want to own stuff and repair it. For many riders, the ability to easily maintain and repair their bikes is the allure of motorcycle ownership. You buy a simple Japanese bike and you could theoretically own it forever. By comparison, EVs feel like disposable tech. And here's what EV companies won't tell you. Motorcycles are already incredibly efficient. A typical bike, any run-of-the-mill sport bike, gets 40 to 50 miles per gallon all day. A small displacement bike gets 70 miles per gallon easy. And if you got big enough balls to daily drive a Honda mini bike, well, you're going to enjoy 120 miles per gallon without even trying. So the whole EVs are better for the environment thing doesn't really land with motorcycles. Motorcycles are already energy-efficient means of transportation across the board. They take less material to build, they need less fuel to run, they take up less space on our roads, they put less strain on those same roads. Look, if you were at all concerned about efficiency, you would already be riding a gas-powered motorcycle, and to be honest, you'd be on a scooter right now, because that's peak apex single vehicle transport. Unless there's some sort of miraculous, world-changing battery breakthrough, as I mentioned previously, none of these problems are going to go away. We would need some sort of battery that was 3 times as efficient, cut charging times to 5 minutes or less, and weighed less than half of today's batteries. And guess what? That's not here. It always seems to be 5 years away, kind of like Tesla's self-driving systems, always just around the corner. We've been hearing that for a decade, and people have been saying since the 2000s that internal combustion engines are just simply going to go away. In my opinion, EV motorcycles are going to stay in the same weird niche that they've been in now, serving as overpriced toys for early adopters who want a virtue signal, not real motorcycles for real riders. Sorry to say it so bluntly. The only scenario where electric motorcycles will really take off is if governments force them. If internal combustion engines are banned entirely, then yeah, sure, maybe we're not going to have any choice. And while that sounds like the plot to a bad sci-fi movie, it's not a completely fantastical idea. For example, in China, many cities have already banned gas-powered scooters and motorcycles in favor of electric ones. And to be honest, in dense urban environments, it does make it cleaner and quieter. You don't have all the pollution from little two-stroke scooters, and it's just nicer to live with. But inside of an urban zone, that makes a lot of sense. Vietnam has also announced plans to phase out internal combustion bikes in big cities. Parts of Europe keep floating around bans on new gas-powered vehicles by 2035, but motorcycles are not always distinctly included. In the US, California has already passed regulation that requires all new passenger cars, SUV, and light-duty trucks to be zero emission by 2035. Again, this means motorcycles are in the clear for now. It means I'm gonna have a job in the 2030s. I'll see you there. Because let's be real, motorcycles are responsible for a tiny fraction of total emissions, and banning them would be political suicide in countries where people ride motorcycles for fun, not just to navigate dense urban traffic. Barring some unforeseen dystopian future, I don't really see any possibility of there being widespread bans on gas-powered motorcycles here in the US anytime soon. So there used to be a federal tax credit in the US for electric motorcycles. You could get up to $2,500 off a Zero just by buying one. But even with the subsidy, sales were still pretty pathetic. Once those subsidies went away, sales plummeted even further. If the only way your product survives is with government assistance, it's probably not a sustainable product. Looking at you, Tesla. Now in 2025, we're seeing the living proof of the electric motorcycle crash out. Zero's been around for over a decade, and they still sell fewer bikes in a year than Honda sells Groms in a month. Their dealers are dropping like flies because inventory just sits in the showroom collecting dust. Livewire was supposed to be Harley-Davidson's big future bet. They even spun it off into their own brand, hyped it up hard, but it's been downhill ever since. Their sales data is really abysmal. In 2022, they sold just 597 bikes. In 2023, that increased to 660 units. A gain, sure, and I bet it looked really good on PowerPoint presentations, but it's still minuscule compared to projections. In 2024, sales again fell to just 612 motorcycles, despite offering newer, cheaper models. From 2021 to 2024, Livewire has sold less than 2,300 bikes, which honestly, I can't even believe they sold that many of them. Livewire isn't just failing, they're bleeding money. In Q1 of 2025, they've only sold 33 models. This was a year-over-year drop of 72%, and they lost about $606,000 per unit sold. Their operating loss for 2024 was $93.9 million, if you can even fathom that. I would not want to be the analyst that presented that info to the exec board. Although I probably also wouldn't want to be the exec hearing that news. I wouldn't want to be involved at all. Energica was a high-performance Italian motorcycle company, and they were supposed to be the electric bike brand, even supplying the engines for the Moto E racing series. And now, they've gone belly up. Energica had their moment in the sun in 2022. They reported a 52% jump in sales and a 67% increase in revenue. I remember at this time, they were kind of the brand for electric bikes if you were interested in performance or pedigree, but despite these numbers, sales were still under 1,000 units for the year. Yeah, I get that they're a small boutique Italian brand, but still 1,000 bikes a year just can't keep the lights on unless you're operating in Goshen, Indiana. By 2024, Energica filed for bankruptcy. Now, does this all mean that electric two-wheeled machines are just totally doomed? Not exactly. The real future of electric bikes is already here. It's e-bikes or Suron-style machines. By comparison, these types of bikes actually make a ton of sense, and I'm all for them. They're cheap, they're light, and they don't pretend to replace a real internal combustion motorcycle. E-bikes fit into a dense urban environment where speed and range are a significantly smaller concern. They've exploded in popularity. Cities are full of them, whether it be commuters, delivery drivers, or teenagers getting a taste of two-wheeled freedom. In most places, depending on top speed and power output, e-bikes don't require a specialized license or registration to ride. I think as they continue to grow in popularity, there will be greater laws put in place. Mostly out of a concern for safety, because e-bike riders don't really have the same understanding as motorcyclists, and car drivers aren't used to seeing a bike in the bike lane going 30 miles an hour. There's a really big discussion around the safety of, people using e-bikes and e-scooters and all that stuff, but that's kind of beyond the scope of this video. Electric bicycles are definitely a far better use of electric tech than a full-sized electric motorcycle. Similarly, Surons or Talarias or whatever other knockoff Chinese brand exists now are also really popular. These dirt bike styled electric bikes are taking off because they're basically just toys for adults. They're not replacing motorcycles in any capacity, but they offer a unique experience that's separate from other motorcycles, a bicycle, or even a pit bike. They're their own thing, and that's where this niche of EV bikes shine. But for replacing your Turbo Hayabusa, your BMW GS, or your Ducati Panigale, come on, just forget about it. So there you have it. That's it. I'm calling it. Electric motorcycles will fail. We're not going to see electric versions of R9s or anything like that. I mean, they're already actively failing in front of our eyes. They cost too much, they don't go far enough, they charge too slowly, they depreciate like last-gen smartphones, and they're impossible to repair yourself. Motorcycles are already efficient, and without a massive technological revolution, none of those problems are going to go away. Sure, maybe one day we'll be forced to ride them, but I'll be dead by then, so I don't care. But we can already see people won't choose them willingly. Zero, Livewire, and Energica are struggling, proof that not a lot of people want these things. They're very niche objects. Of course, feel free to drop me in the comment and let me know what you think about this topic. EV talk always gets the comment section stirring. If you disagree with me, let me know. Do you think I'm totally off base? But I don't know, I think I've done the research here, folks. Thanks so much for making it all the way into the end of the video. I truly do appreciate it. I'll catch you in the next one. See you later.